I'm at here on 6th Avenue with Jessica Scott, whose new show, Ship of Fools, opens October 13th. And where did this idea for the show come from?
It came from a series of conversations I've had over the years with my girlfriends about feeling crazy and questioning ourselves at any point of conflict before we start questioning the source of conflict, whether that be an institution or another person or, whenever it just seemed like the habit of a lot of women is to immediately do an inventory about whether or not you are wrong or flawed in your reasoning, as opposed to
the
source, or believing in yourself first, or being your own best advocate. And then, so that was sort of a trend, a theme in conversations and in a lot of my relationships with other creative women. Then I was on tour with a show in London, and I went to the Wellcome Collection, which is a medical history museum. It's really fantastic, and they have a great bookstore. And I was down in the bookstore sort of flipping through a series of books on madness, and I found this book called by Lisa Apignesi called Mad, Sad, and Bad. And it's a really fantastic overview of women and the mind doctors from, I want to say, the 1700s forward to present day. And when I started reading that book, I immediately linked it to the conversations that I was having, and that formed the foundation of the direction of the show.
And have you always taken ideas that you have and put them into the genre of puppetry?
Well, I'm not a theater artist by any kind of training. I met Basil Twist very accidentally when I was 21, and I had an internship with him that initially I was only interested in protest, spectacle, and puppetry, big puppets, bread and puppet style stuff, as a part of my activism. And then I met Basil, and he started to teach me how to build, and he started to put me in shows, and then I just I fell into that world, which is a wonderful world, because at that time I was 21 and it was better than bartending or waitressing, which is what I was doing for money. And it just seemed like such a fantastic stroke of luck that this amazing person would pay me to roll around on the floor and hide under tables and travel the world with my friends.
Awesome.
So no, I have never put my ideas into puppetry. It definitely took probably about 5 or 6 years of doing that kind of work full time to think of myself as a puppetry artist in my own right, and then even longer for me to think about wanting to make my own work.
Is this your first show with
It's
puppetry?
my first full-length piece,
show?
yeah.
Oh.
I've taken on strong collaborative roles in other larger productions. I've been primary collaborators in a lot of productions, and designing and lead performing, things like that. But to say that this is my show, I've never made that declaration.
And this is your show?
This is my show. I mean, I have fantastic collaborators. It's also other people's shows, but this is, I conceived of the ideas and the directions, and I'm providing the starting off point for all of the material in the show, or the visuals that I provide.
So besides puppetry, would you say that there are other aspects of theater involved in this production?
Absolutely. Yeah. A lot of people see this show and they're like, but I thought I was going to see a puppet show, because their definition of what puppetry is perhaps more figurative. Like, they think the expectation is that you come to a puppet show to see maybe a guy do a little dance, or a guy to have one conflict, or something that I identify as having needs and wants and moving directly towards or through those needs and wants. And this is, A, it's a nonlinear narrative, and B, there isn't really a protagonist. It's actually a show about the history of an idea. So you could say that the main character is this idea that we're deconstructing and reformatting, and so in that way, I think the show is very puppety in that all the sets are manipulated and they're used as storytelling aspects and tools, and the costumes don't just clothe our performers, they also transform. And there's a lot of unseen hands operating everything. So I think that perhaps in a more abstract definition of puppetry, this is very much a puppet show. Even the audience is a puppet. It's on a moving, transforming mechanism. And but somebody whose puppetry definition is a little more like, where's the dude? I'm like, sorry, you're not going to find him here. It's not a show about that guy.
Tell me about the origin of the title of the show.
Sure. Well, there are two origins. One is that in a lot of engravings from the 1500s, I want to say 14 to 1500s, particularly engravings by Albrecht Dürer, he depicts something called the Ship of Fools. It's called the Narrenschiff. I'm probably totally butchering the pronunciation. In Northern European countries, Flemish countries, the Narrenschiff was, whether or not we don't know if the Narrenschiff really existed or not, the Ship of Fools. What we do know is that there are depictions of it, and there's lore around it. And the mythology is that communities would board up all their crazies, their unwanted, their misfits, their lunatics, their any subversives, and put them on this ship that sailed from port to port through the canals without a captain, as a way to sort of exorcise them of that burden. And the way that those people on that ship would survive is sort of by performing antics of their own craziness, of their disease, for alms and charity. I don't know if they did survive. We don't know. What we do know is that there are several depictions of lunatics on a boat that seems to be heading nowhere, and that's called the Narrenschiff. Foucault took that idea and used it as a primary metaphor in Madness and Civilization to talk about madness within the age of reason, the concept of madness as only really existing as madness, as a pathology in the relatively recent intellectual trend of reason. So
nice. Sounds like a great idea for a show.
Any kind of show. I just put a lot of puppets and wigs and dancing.
So tell me the dates of the show. It's opening October 13th.
October 13th.
It runs.
We have a preview on the 12th. It opens on the 13th and it runs until October 22nd. Right. And we frequently have 2-night shows. We have a 7:30 curtain and a 10:30 curtain.
Terrific. Well, thank you very much, Jessica.
Of course.
Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Thanks.